We often think of fall as the time when the garden starts winding down. During this season, many gardeners also like to talk about what veg they can still grow, trying to stretch things out into one last harvest before the cold hits. But did you know that apart from veg, fall is actually a great season to plant many varieties of flower seeds? There are many types of annual and perennial flowers that benefit from or even require cold in order to sprout. So let's talk about some seeds you can sow right now to ensure a beautiful flower garden come spring. A mainstay in many gardens and one of the easiest perennial flowers to get established is Rudbeckia. Also known as Black-Eyed Susan, Rudbeckia is one of the most well-known and easily recognizable wildflowers. They grow vigorously, clumping together in bursts of golden flowers with a black or brown center. Their look can be easily confused for dwarf sunflowers, but they face upward to the sky rather than locking in eastward. And the pollinators absolutely love them. When I walk my garden, it's basically a guarantee that I'll find some bees or other flying critters happily enjoying my Rudbeckia. And that makes them a fantastic flower to have in your vegetable garden, because the more attractants you have in your garden, the more likely pollinators will check out your tomatoes, peppers, and squash. Rudbeckia is super easy to sow. Prepare the soil by lightly disturbing it with a rake or a hand cultivator. Broadcast the seeds over the soil and then lightly tamp them down. You don't want to bury the seeds, you just want them to have good contact with the soil. Rudbeckia seeds benefit from some sun exposure in order to germinate. Now, a light dusting is fine, but you definitely don't want to bury them. Now remember, with Rudbeckia and all of the flowers on this list, we're not sowing them right now so we can get blooms this fall. What we're doing is we're giving them an opportunity to germinate and maybe start to develop some roots, which they will continue to do slowly over the winter time, which will give you a great head start on getting some early blooms come spring. Another wildflower favorite is the purple coneflower. These blooms are unmistakable. I like to mix my purple coneflower with Rudbeckia and white daisies. The brilliant mix of purples, golds, and whites really adds a great backdrop to any garden. Purple coneflowers are perennial, so that means that they'll keep coming back to your garden year after year. They also self-seed readily, so you'll be able to grow more in subsequent seasons. And if you want to control where they grow, you can always wait until the flower heads die back, harvest them yourselves, extract the seeds, and then you can sow the seeds anywhere you want in your garden. Sow your coneflower seeds similarly to the way that you would sow Rudbeckia. Make sure to sow them in a well-exposed area. These need sun to thrive. And you don't have to surface sow them. You can actually cover them with about a 1/4 inch of soil, but definitely don't dig them a trench. As they sprout, you can thin them out, or just let them grow and they can figure it out themselves. They're wildflowers, so they'll be fine. Painted daisies are another classic beauty that you should get sown in your garden now. Of course, these are already done for the season, and a lot of the seed heads have been eaten off by birds. But the remaining seed heads, as they dry out, I'm going to harvest them, and that means I'm going to have even more daisy seeds that I can scatter throughout my garden this fall, so I can have beautiful daisies anywhere I want come springtime. Daisies can come in many brilliant colors, surrounding little yellow centers. And they're another great attractor of beneficial pollinators to your garden. The butterflies and bees absolutely love them. They love the sun, but they can also handle a good bit of afternoon shade. So you actually have some flexibility as to where you can sow your daisies. And it's the same drill as coneflowers. Broadcast the seeds over a prepared space and then cover them with about a 1/4 inch of soil. Now, daisies can take a while to get established, between 180 and 300 days depending on the variety. So be patient. Don't lose hope if you don't see blooms in year 1. Know that the plants are working hard to establish a strong root system. So in subsequent seasons, they're guaranteed to put on a great show, and it's going to be well worth it. Before we get into the rest of the list, I want to take a quick minute to talk about a process called cold stratification. After sowing your seeds, you might notice that initially it takes a while for them to sprout, or not all of them are emerging at the same time. You might even notice that you don't get any growth until spring. This is because some seeds benefit from, or even require, a period of cold in order to activate the germination process. In cooler regions, this happens naturally outdoors as temperatures dip in the fall and winter months. But in some moderate or warmer climates, the temperatures might never get low enough for long enough in order to activate your seeds. If you're growing seeds from a packet, the instructions on the back will often tell you if a seed requires cold stratification. And if that's the case for you, take these steps ahead of sowing your seeds in the fall. Seal your seeds in a labeled zip-top bag containing a moist paper towel or some moistened sand or vermiculite. To stratify, seeds need temperatures between 33 and 41 degrees Fahrenheit for a couple of weeks up to about a month. Once that's done, you can remove them from the fridge and get sowing in your garden. Many wildflowers and perennials need cold stratification, so if you live in a warmer region, give this fridge trick a shot before you sow your seeds this fall. It'll really help with the germination rates. Another beauty to grow in your garden is Delphinium. Delphinium flowers grow on what's called a spike, in a showy display of vibrant blue colors. They're also great because they're not considered invasive in most of the viewing area, unlike some other showy flower spikes like foxgloves and lupines. However, they do contain alkaloids that are highly toxic, so take care when growing Delphinium around children and pets. And also, plan to admire them from a distance, as touching Delphinium without gloves on can actually cause skin irritations for some people. These will take about 120 days to bloom, so getting your Delphinium sown in the fall is a great way to get a head start on your spring flowers. They'll also take a little bit longer to germinate than some of the flowers that we've already discussed, so be patient with them. Barely cover them with soil, lightly pat them down, and you're all set. Another spike flower that I love growing that does really well being sown in the fall is Anise Hyssop. Back in 2017, I got my first Anise Hyssop plant from a plant giveaway at the Chicago Botanic Garden. What started out as a single plant in a container has now become a mainstay. And today, you can find Anise Hyssop growing in just about every bed in my garden. And I'm not complaining. This has become one of my favorite flowers. It invites so many beneficial pollinators to the garden. The bees, butterflies, and hummingbirds absolutely love it. And the leaves and flowers are quite tasty. As its name suggests, Anise Hyssop has a nice licoricey anise flavor that works really well when you harvest the leaves, dry them up, and brew them as a loose leaf tea. And the little flowers on the spike are super sweet and delicious when harvested and tossed into a salad, or just picked straight off the plant and eaten while I walk the garden. And like I said, all of these in my garden come from one single plant, so obviously they do a really nice job naturalizing. They're short-lived perennials, so the individual plants only last a few years before not coming back. But once the plants have established, harvesting the seeds at the end of the season is super easy. Just grab onto the spike and run your hand down it. And now you have a surplus of Anise Hyssop seeds that you can grow in other places in your garden. And all you have to do is broadcast the seeds in an exposed area. They do require light to germinate, so just make sure that they have some good contact with the soil, but definitely don't cover them up. You can cut them back in the late fall if you're worried about them spreading too much, but I actually just like to keep them where they are. They provide really good shelter to overwintering beneficial pollinators, and they're also a really good food source for birds. Goldfinches in particular love them. Another surface-sown seed, and one of my all-time favorite flowers to grow in the garden, is the Cardinal Flower. With its gorgeous burst of deep red tubular flowers, this plant puts on a great show in the garden. And it's an absolute favorite of hummingbirds and butterflies. Like Anise Hyssop, cardinal flowers are a short-lived perennial, so you're only going to get about 2 or 3 years out of each plant. You can try to extend their lifespan a little bit by dividing them every year or two. But harvesting their seeds is super easy, and if left on their own, they readily self-seed, so it's not going to seem like your plants are dying off. The seeds are tiny, found in each of these little pods. You can either harvest the pods and collect the seeds for distribution elsewhere, or if you want to ensure that cardinal flowers keep growing in the same space, you can just shake the stalks, which will scatter the seeds around the base of the plant. The seeds will germinate and will take the place of older plants that are completing their life cycle. Cardinal flowers need consistent watering, and they actually do pretty well in a wetland environment, so don't be shy when it comes to watering them once they get established. They appreciate full sun in cool and milder climates, but in warmer regions, they are looking for a little bit of afternoon shade. So be mindful about the location that you plant your cardinal flowers in your garden. And the last on the list of seeds you should sow this fall in order to get a gorgeous show of flowers come spring is poppies. Poppies are beautiful flowers that grow on long stems, and they put on a great show when grown in groups. One of my favorite areas in the Chicago Botanic Garden early summer is right outside of their English walled garden. Each year they create a gorgeous meadow garden that's absolutely filled with poppies. It is amazing to walk through. One of the cool things about the poppies that I grow in my garden is that they're what are called breadseed poppies. These are the same types of poppies that you would bake into muffins or sprinkle onto bagels. Poppies are another seed that needs to be surface sown. So prep an area, broadcast the seeds liberally, ensure that they're making decent contact with the soil, and you're good to go. And after your poppies bloom, don't deadhead them. Let them hang out on the plant. The big bulbous portion that was the center of the flower will dry out. As the pod dries out, shake it, and if it sounds like a rattle, that's when you know that your seeds are ready to be harvested. So you can harvest your seeds for flowers for next year, or if you're growing a bread seed variety, save some of those seeds and put them into the cupboard for baking. So get a head start on your spring garden. Sow these hardy perennials over the next few weeks, and you'll set yourself up to have a gorgeous display of beautiful flowers soon after the cold recedes. Happy growing!